Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris 21 here, and back to bring you guys another updated deck profile of mine. So, of course, what I have to present to you all is my Gear Chronicle deck for post-generation booster set 2, of course. So, yeah, really liking the enhancements the deck has received through its nice support from set 2, which, you know, should be expected being that it is a main character deck and all. But yeah, so the deck, well, I always felt that Gear Chronicle has always been a pretty solid deck. At times it can seem a little bit vanilla-ish, and you know, it kind of felt like a one-trick pony for the most part, because all you're kind of doing is, you know, clocking your opponent's rear guard, which is the term, of course, that I'm using for its mechanic now, and pressuring with your center Vanguard, mainly your Ragnar Clock Dragon, and kind of just hoping he can just get you the game in there if your opponent doesn't have any perfect guards. At times, you know, like I said, I just felt the deck was just very vanilla-ish. You're not really doing much, and you're not really getting much out of a lot of the cards that you have in the deck. So with the support that it's gotten, you have a lot more versatility with some of your plays. You have a lot of rear guards that actually, you know, do something for you. And on top of that, especially in the form of its new stride from set 2, Fate Rider, like I said, you have a lot more versatility with a lot of your plays. So there's definitely different approaches you can definitely have with some of your turns. So really liking the different play options the deck has really opened up to now with this with its recent support. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually get started. So I'm actually going to start with my stride units this time around. One, so I don't forget about them, and also two, I think it would be a lot easier to explain the deck a bit going forward. So yeah, first off, just get them out of the way. You have your 4 Ragnar Clock Dragon, really one of the most powerful stride units out there, so why not play 4? Because, you know, chances are if you fire once and you fire a second time, you usually will end up winning at that point, unless your opponent has like a million perfect cards at hand. But yeah, Ragnar Clock, just obviously a very powerful stride unit, so definitely got to play 4 of him. Then next you have your 2 Fate Rider. So Fate Rider is the new stride unit for set 2 for Gears, and it's really what helps to bring a lot more versatility with some of your plays for the deck. Because now, as first skill, as it reads, it's a once per turn ability, but what you do is you choose one of your rear guards and put them in the bottom of your deck. Search your deck for up to 1 card that is a grade greater than that unit. So if you send a grade 1, you obviously, you know, call out a grade 2 and so on and so forth. And shuffle your deck, and then for each face-up card in your G zone, you get to choose that many units and give them each plus 3,000 power. So yeah, it's a very, very amazing skill, just because the main thing I love about it is that it gives this deck the ability to tutor. And tutoring is really what made a huge difference for this deck, just because, especially with some other, him paired up with a lot of new cards that this clan has received, you now have an easy, consistent way to get certain board setups you kind of go for, whether you're trying to make that, you know, end game push to your opponent, or maybe you have a different, you know, play option in mind. I really like the fact is that in the form of a stride unit, you have the ability to tutor, which I think that's really huge. So that's one thing I really loved about this card, and it's cheap too. You know, surprising, it's like $5. But yeah, yeah, definitely he's definitely what one of the big changes was for the deck. But yeah, really, really good card. And last but not least, for your last 2 strides, you have your 1 Lost Age and 1 Chronos. So I see some people like actually cutting Lost Age from their decks, and I don't necessarily understand why. Like, I understand Chronos is a good card, but, you know, Chronos is a very hefty cost. You know, Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, your Soul and your Counterblast is very tight in this deck, especially, you know, being that you want to reserve it for other units that you have. So Chronos Command is obviously a little bit more situational. It's just there to kind of pressure your opponent in. Originally, his original role was just to pressure out, you know, perfect guards from your opponent to open up for Ragnar Clock, but, you know, the deck has changed, so you're not really relying on the Ragnar Clock as much for your endgame push. So Chronos Command is just there, so maybe obviously still if your opponent wants to rush you down a little bit early, it's one way to punish them for that. But Lost Age is just really good because he's always going to be my first go-to you know, stride I go for before I start going into my other units, just because he's a free clock on hit. So that's why I think that it's really viable to play the 1 still. So yeah, 1 of each. I think that's all you need. Now next, going into the actual deck itself, with the starter, I am still playing the Gunner Gear Draco Kid. I think really he is the best starter for this deck, being that how some of the important cards in this deck does actually interact with Chronojet Dragon. You want to just guarantee your Chronojet, and even if you get the Chronojet Dragon, it's a guaranteed grade 3 fodder to stride with. So and this deck relies heavily on striding. So why not play a card that helps bring that consistency to the deck? Simple as that. And he's a 5k boost. So all the more reason to play him. Next for grade 3s, well, you saw him already. For Chronojet Dragon, you guys already know what he does. He's good. It's a good card. So I'm not really going to explain it because you guys, I think you should already know what he does. The next for my grade 3s, I am sticking with the Ruin Disposal Dragon. I'm just playing it at 4, just keep it a solid 4. Now, the thing is with the secondary for the grade 3s, in terms of options out there, I know there's also the option of playing, let's see if I can find him. Well, Nixie Number Dragon, which is the new Legion, that actually came out in set 2 for the deck. I honestly don't really like that card at all, to be honest, just because he only interacts with literally one card in your deck. And if you don't draw that card, then, well, you can't really do much. And you obviously can't rely on Fate Rider to tutoring to that card because you need to be in Legion to take advantage of his ability. So Nixie Number Dragon is, while he's in Legion, when one of your opponent's rear guards gets clocked, you get the Chronojet ability or Glory ability of opponent cannot guard with green 1s or higher. So, on paper it sounds like a good skill, but he relies on another card to really enable that skill. And like I said, there's only one card in the deck that can actually do that for him. So it's not a really good card in my opinion, especially for how I built this deck. So Ruin Disposal, I just like that. Just a free clock on Legion is always nice, and he does interact pretty well with a few other cards in the deck. So I think he just I think he's a lot better, and also his mate is a lot better than Nixie Number's mate, because Nixie Number's mate is terrible because honestly you're really just going to be focused on being on Chronojet as your Vanguard. In my testing I've done with this deck, I hardly ever Legion, but when I did, Ruin Disposal, a lot more solid choice, I found. Next up for grade 2s, you have your 4 Steam Fighter Amber. I still like this card at 4, just because it's just a very amazing card. Like on boost, counterblast 1, and you clock a rear guard when he attacks Vanguard. So, because what I like, it's an ongoing skill essentially. Because if you put him on board, use the skill one time, and then if your opponent doesn't kill it or do anything about it, you have the ability just to do it again. Also, the fact is that like I said, it's like with that ongoing skill, I guess you can say it has. It's also a nice damage sponge for your opponent. So, I always find my opponents always going out of the way just to get rid of him. So, I definitely like the 4 just because I always, always try to keep one in hand just to keep constantly calling out and just keep clocking rear guard. So, just a really good card. Plus, I really like the artwork on it too. Looks really cool. So you got 4 Amber. Next, you have the new card for set 2 in the form of Glimmer Breath Dragon. So, I only play 3 just because his cost is a little bit hefty. Especially for how tight your resources are, especially with Soul and Counterblast, which is the main source of cost for the deck. But when you place them on Rear Guard Circle, you Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. If you have a Chronojet Vanguard, which is why, like I said, you focus your deck on Chronojet Dragon, you get to clock a Rear Guard, he gains +2. So it's just really nice, kind of like a Berserk Dragon like effect, which is nice. So yeah, it's just another unit that can take advantage of the clock mechanic, and just really good. And one thing I really like with this deck is that there's a lot of cards that really interact with each other by taking advantage of the clock mechanic. So yeah, Glimmer Breath, I think it's fine at 3. And like I said, Fate Rider, it's just a card you can actually tutor into with Fate Rider. So I think 3 is a good solid number. The next, really the best grade 2, honestly, in the form of, I can't pronounce her name, Steam Maiden Ishin. So it's simple, Generation Break 1. Whenever one of your opponent's rear guards gets clocked, you Counterblast 1, and she gets the Silent Tom ability of, well, the red text ability. When she attacks, your opponent cannot call grade 0s to Guardian Circles. So, it's really a better form of Steam Knight Poozier or whatever, because, Poozier, the Soul Blast 2 is very hefty because your soul it needs to be reserved for Glimmer Breath Dragon and your Messi or something, the grade 1 that unflips damage for you. So you really can't afford to really play him as much. So this is going to be your best approach in terms of acquiring pressure on your rear guards. So it's really good because one play I really like going for is, I go Fate Rider, clock something of course, or tutor into her, and then I pump her up along with her booster, create that 22k column, hit that next tier with no zeros. Because although your opponent can still perfect guard your Vanguard, obviously, the thing is, like, if you have your Fate Rider with the booster hitting for like 33,000 plus, along with a 22k, you know, Silent Tom column, it makes it a little bit more awkward for how your opponent uses their Perfect Guard if they don't have more than one in hand, because, you know, they can still Perfect Guard the Stride unit because 33 is still, you know, a very powerful number to deal with, but then they have to deal with the 22k column. So if they want to reserve their Perfect Guard to deal with this column, then they're going to have to drop a decent amount of shields in their hand just to deal with, you know, still a very powerful center column in my Stride, because Strides hit ridiculous numbers with ease. So that's kind of like the main approach I go for with this. But yeah, she's your finisher in the deck along with Ragnarok, so really like this card a lot. And next, as you saw, I am only playing one Puzur, one Steam Knight, whatever. Sorry guys, I butcher names if you guys hadn't noticed. But yeah, I only play one because here's the thing, like I said, you're focusing the deck on Chronojet Dragon, so I really hardly ever Legion, so it's not a big deal. And honestly, virtually the only way you can never like Legion is if he is in your damage zone and stays there. But, you know, I had a few games where, you know, he did just that and I did not care because I'm not focused on Legioning for the deck. And if you do ride him, well, you have so many ways to Soul Blast him and get him out of the souls. So, you know, I think the one is just fine. And, you know, like I said, his Soul Blast 2 for his Silent Thomas skill, for Silent Tom-esque skill, is really not that great just because it's too hefty of a cost. But hey, it's nice just to, you know, have that just in case. So that's why I only play one, and I think honestly the one is perfect for the deck. And next for grade 1s, still running the 4 Steam Maiden, your Perfect Guard Unflipper, just because I think Unflipping is so huge for this deck, because it's so, Counterblast is so hefty in this deck. And while, yeah, you can deal with the Cross, you can deal with Deep Police and stuff, it really doesn't matter that much to me, just because, you know, they're going to be more worried about me than I am about them a lot of the times, especially my experience dealing with Deep Police. So, you know, whatever. Unflipping is more valuable than blocking, like, one attack situationally. So, still got to play those 4 Perfect Guards. And then you have your 4 Stride Enablers, obviously. It's one way to search into Chronojet if you need to, and obviously, you know, you got to Stride. Gotta Stride, because this deck relies heavily on it. The next, of course, you have the promo card of Steam Fighter. I like to call him Messi, you know, because, I don't know, kind of looks like him in a way, but I don't know, I think that's an easy way to say his name. But yeah, he's very important. Just whenever one of your opponent's rear guards gets clocked, you Soul Blast 1 and unflip the damage. So definitely very good interactive card, just to help recycle resources and just keep the flow going with the clocking. So definitely a very important card for the deck. The next, honestly, for the last 2 slots in your grade 1s, it can really be whatever you want as long as it makes sense. I'm still sticking with Gearwolf, just because, you know, situationally he can be decent, but I just like it just because it's still a 7k boost, and, you know, I really just like to put him behind my Vanguard, because I usually only clock once, maybe twice sometimes. If you clock twice, you know, he can help create a high tier column with your 9ks. And, you know, if I have him behind a Chronojet Dragon, you know, he can be a 10k booster, usually pretty consistently. But the reason why I don't play like Misgeyser Dragon, which is the 6k base that gets +5 when you clock, is because since I don't run any ideal, you know, beaters in the deck, you know, 11k boosting a 9k still makes 20k, which doesn't make a difference at all unless you clock twice. But, you know, if you clock twice, you're only hitting, you know, what, 16 plus 9, which is 25, which is the same as 22 with this guy. So I just like the solid 7k, and situationally he can be good. I mean, you honestly can cut one promo for the Wolves, you know, if that kind of suits you. But, you know, I found this card to be a lot more important. So honestly, like I said, these last 2 cards, honestly, I may actually even consider running Burnham, the 10k booster for the Vanguard again, just because, like I said, you know, the Wolves, I don't use them as often, you know, as I would thought, but nonetheless, they still provide some good uses for you, especially with some of your setups. And again, because of Fate Rider, you can just tutor into it if you want to. So that's, again, it's another thing why I like the card a lot, because it makes your deck building a lot more flexible. Then last but not least, for your triggers, you have your crits. Now, I do want to play 4 Heart Thumb Worker, which is the double R crit. That did came out in set 2, but I just don't have them right now at the moment. They are in the mail right now, but yeah, Heart Thumb Worker is actually really nice for the deck, because what he does is, while he's on the board, while he's on the field, when your Vanguard attacks that has Chronojet in its name, You put them into Soul, give your Vanguard +5, and then you draw a card. So it's a card that goes into Soul, can replace itself, and can power up your Chronojet Dragon situationally too. Maybe when you're going for game and such. But yeah, just a really, really amazing card for this deck. Because like I said, just getting more Soul only benefits the deck because you do rely heavily on Soul and Counterblast. And there are actually times where, you know, I had like a funny field of like two or three of these, and then I pumped up Chronojet like +10 or +15, so it's pretty hilarious to do that. But yeah, just a really amazing card for this deck. And then of course you have your 4 heals, your Margot clones, and your 4 heals. One thing I was going to actually contemplate, I just didn't get a chance to test it out. I may actually try like 7 crit 5 draw, just because having that 1 extra draw is really nice, just because it's extra fodder for Fate Rider to use. And you know, being able to draw an extra card only benefits the deck because it's more, either you're drawing to more options or again more Fate Rider fodder just to tutor into your plays. So I actually may just do that, but I think the 8 crit 4 draw 4 heals working out amazing for me regardless, because crits are still pretty deadly, especially in this deck. But there you have it, guys. That is my updated gear deck. Hope you guys, hopefully it could help some of you guys that's been requesting heavily for this deck, because I know Gear Chronicle definitely has a few different directions you can go about. But yeah, I'm really liking this deck for what I've been testing with, and definitely a lot of fun to play. But yeah, other than that, guys, thank you guys so much again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you hadn't, and leave a thumbs up. That's always appreciated. So yeah, once again, guys, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.